I'll be giving you all a trial update and talking about Kilroy. But first, I want to apologize for how long it took me to do this update. I got very sick after the last day of trial. I had a very bad flu. I lost my voice for 2 weeks, and that was followed by 2 weeks of extreme exhaustion, which I now suspect was due to anemia because I have my bleeding ulcer reopened, and it's all stress-based. In addition to that, Brian has gone through his surgery on December 15th. It was a 13-hour surgery, and when the surgeon went through it, they found that the pelvic tumor was deeper than they expected. Because of that, there will be some nerve damage, and we don't know the extent of it yet, and the recovery process for Brian is going to take a lot longer than was expected. So until he does recover, Honey Badger Radio is short-staffed, and we can't keep up the same level of content production. I do want to thank everybody who chipped in to get Brian a gift as well.
So another package came in the mail while I was indisposed. This one is from EM at, well, I see that there's a, I know I'm wearing the same shirt, I don't give a fuck, I'm recovering. So, fuck off. If you guys don't know, this shirt is a JoJo reference. One of my favorites.
Is that a JoJo reference?
It is a JoJo reference. I don't know, this isn't gonna help. It's all moon speak on here. Yamamoto. Whatever. Alright, let's see what we got. I'm gonna open it from the bottom. Switch it up. Ooh, it's different. It's kind of a small box. Anything else in here? I'm gonna try not to look right at it. Okay. There's the Killer Queen.
I can't see it.
You can barely see it. It's like an emboss, but that's the Killer Queen like symbol.
Yeah.
The cat skull.
Yeah,
thing.
you can't see it. Wait, I can turn on the light.
Ultra Violence brand.
Yeah, let me see
made
it.
in Italy. Yeah, maybe if you
there.
shine a light, does that
Oh
help?
yeah, you can see it now.
Yeah. Ultra Violence brand. Oh yeah, it's exactly what I was hoping for. But I mean, based on the box, I thought, you know,
What?
could this be the tie? Because I've seen this online. It is the tie. It's dope.
Let's see it.
Okay. So, it is Kiryu Chikage's tie. It's a real tie. It's not cheap, too. This is... wow, guys. This is amazing. Really. Thank you so much. Because I know these things are pretty, like, decent quality.
Oh wow,
Yeah.
that does look
It's very fancy.
high quality.
Now I gotta buy a suit.
Now for the trial update. We're currently in settlement talks with the Mary Sue and the Calgary Expo, and those talks are privileged, so no details. During the last day of trial, after my direct testimony, the defendants appeared somewhat eager to offer a settlement. We should know if we're proceeding to another trial date or settling by the end of January. From the beginning, I've said I will only accept what I see as justice for myself and the community, even if that means taking it all the way to the bitter end in a final judgment. I'm now confident that while we could still lose on a point of law, we would not lose on the facts. And there's some good news on that point as well. Harry has informed me that we have a very solid case on my testimony alone. In addition, some of our witnesses are no longer needed to authenticate the evidence as it has been entered into the record. So we can go forward with a much smaller court team. This means that we are currently going downhill now instead of uphill. I'd like to say more about the trial and everything that's happened in it, but I'm going to save that for when everything is complete and done. And I hope you can understand why. And have patience with us during this process. Trials are incredibly lengthy and extremely difficult procedures. Now here's some more positive stuff, some updates on what's been happening in the men's issues and men's rights communities. The Canadian Centre for Equality has already raised $150,000 for its shelter for male victims of domestic abuse and their children. That's half of its goal. It's currently running a fundraiser for an additional $52K with a backer who's going to double any donations given to that fundraiser. Although the cafe initiative also has financial backing from the government, it needs to show the government strong public support for the initiative. So please go pitch in and get them to the $3,000K they need from the public. Link is in the low bar. The International Conference on Men's Issues faced a significant roadblock last year. The venue broke its contract with the conference and pulled out. But Mike Buchanan rose to the challenge and found an excellent replacement venue. So the conference is a go. The dates of the ICMI number 4 are July 20th to the 22nd, 2018, in London. If you want to see myself, Karen, Sargon, and loads of other interesting speakers on the topic of men's issues, you can purchase a ticket by going to the ICMI 18 website. Link is in the low bar. I also want to give a shout out to our patron Ragmar. Not only does he help financially, but he took a weekend out of his own very limited vacation time to help us put up some new, safer stairs at the Badger Cave. Thank you, Ragmar. And if anyone has a spare bedroom or couch in the Winnipeg area and doesn't mind offering it to a hardworking, conscientious, and generous man for a short-term stay to help him out with a work situation, please drop me a line at topic@badgerpod.com. That's topic@badgerpod.com. Now I'm going to pause here for a second from the updates to ask you the question I always ask you. If these ideas resonate with you and you have the means, if you're not supporting us, why not? I know a lot of you will find this a difficult question, even impertinent, cheeky, but it's a question that I think is absolutely critical to be asked and answered. So if you want to answer it, please send the answer to topic@badgerpod.com. And if the answer to why don't you support is I'm gonna support, then please go to feedthebadger.com. Link is in the low bar and up above somewhere. And I'll be giving all of this information again at the end of the video, so feel free to just let the question sit from now. A few months ago on a live stream, I said that the skeptic community, or the skeptosphere, or whatever you want to call them, wasn't going to accomplish anything. I want to preface this by saying I think there are some very genuine, nice people among the skeptics, and I have nothing personal against anyone in the skeptic community, but it's not going to achieve anything, and I don't think any individual in it is either. People asked me to explain what I was getting at, and I finally have a moment to do so. Too many of them believe that class warfare between men and women, with men winning, is a legitimate thing. They may not believe it about the West now, but they do believe it about the past and other cultures around the world. This is a belief that is a control narrative. It serves to block off forbidden knowledge about how genders interact to create societies, communities, and events. In 2013, I described threat narratives and how women create them. Women create threat narratives by situating themselves as being vulnerable to anything that can be regarded as threatening. It could be foreigners, it could be unsavory elements, it could be their own men, it could be patriarchy, it could be systems of wrong thought. Anything. The reason why women can do this is because women are everyone's first experience of belonging. They embody belonging as our mothers, and belonging is the most valuable of all commodities for a social species. Even more than sex, we need to feel like we belong, and in fact, sex is a part of that. Belonging ties into self-worth and self-preservation, because if we don't belong, we die. And women naturally give a sense of belonging. That innate value gives them the power to use their vulnerability to motivate men. Because when you serve the needs of a woman, when you protect or provide for a source of belonging in society, by transitive property, you belong. Mr. Medicure stated in his description of the Kilroy implosion, which is a great series of videos, that it was like any Greek tragedy. It has a woman at the center of it. And he's right. Women are always going to be at the center of these kinds of implosions. Men are usually at the center of their own type of implosion, which is a conversation for another day. Now, bear in mind that this is just my analysis. Women have a tendency towards a moral failing when it comes to having authority over events or companies or societies. They can make the endeavor about their vulnerabilities rather than the endeavor's success. They see the resources they have authority over as their resources to protect themselves and accentuate their potential victimhood, or the victimhood of female groups they belong to, such as female ex-Muslims. I disagree that there was any intent to fraud involved in the Kilroy event. I believe that it fell to that tendency, and an unexamined tendency. Simply, it became about the organizer's vulnerability to doxing, to the group she belongs to's vulnerability to doxing, and to her perception that the people she disagreed with were a threat and shouldn't be allowed to speak, which is another aspect of a threat narrative. These ideas are threatening to me as a woman, therefore they are bad and not deserve to be heard. When women get into these modes, there may be zero intent to do harm. The harm comes out of the lack of self-doubt and the absolute certainty that they are right. And the lack of self-doubt is because women are always assured of a sense of belonging. It's right in the word women and man and how they're used. A woman is a real woman if she is biologically female. Her actions are irrelevant. A man is a real man if his actions serve the group's benefit. In addition, there's often an inability to distinguish from the woman's own threat narrative and the benefit of the endeavor itself. Even among women who can correctly identify this in other women, they can still fall prey to this. And anyone who believes class warfare between men and women with men winning will never be able to challenge these kinds of situations because they can't understand them. They don't recognize or accept the role that women have in embodying the belonging of society. Women would have power with no legal rights whatsoever. That's not to say they should have their legal rights removed, not at all. I think that's irrelevant to the problem. What I'm saying is that women don't need legal rights in order to have power in society. Let me explain. Men form the structure of most institutions of authority in any given society, but it's women who teach their children to invest a sense of belonging in those structures. Without that, those structures would have no authority. She taught him what to invest his belonging in. It's women who choose which belief systems flourish, even in terrorist organizations. It's women keeping the organization together by teaching its values to their children and maintaining the organizational structure while the men die for the cause. Some societies exist in the situation where the social fabric is so fragile, the cohesion so necessary to survival. If women stop maintaining it or actively challenge it, everyone could die. Such societies will engage in extreme punishments of women who deviate from their role. Imagine a captain abandoning his company after taking enemy fire. In times past, that captain would be shot for desertion of his post. We can see the firing squad as oppressing the captain and any other soldier who deserts his fellow soldiers, but think about the situation. That desertion could lead to the deaths of others. It's an extreme circumstance, necessitating an extreme response to prevent catastrophe. Societies that exist with no error margins exist on the edge of extinction in harsh environments with high resource competition. They can't afford to let their women desert their posts, maintaining the belonging, the cohesion, and the moral structure of their societies. And we look at those societies and say that they are evidence of class warfare between men and women, with men winning. How is it possible for men to be at war with the women who embody their sense of belonging? It's essentially being at war with everything you value about yourself. In these systems, valuable belonging objects are cloistered from the world, seen as weak and fragile, and by seen as weak and fragile and hidden, become all the more powerfully able to compel service and sacrifice from men. In Gender and War, the author points out that the more delicate and confined the woman, the more she can compel sacrifice in war from men. Remember, understanding does not mean condoning. In no way do I think these systems are equitable or something to strive for. I just recognize the gender dynamics at the center of them. The center of those systems and the center of our own. A while back, I described how the right and the left exist within something I called the Church of Women Worsting. In brief, the Church of Women Worsting is a belief system that emphasizes women's vulnerability, that they always have it worse. In order to generate any kind of motivation in this system, you need women's vulnerability at the core of every endeavor. At the time, I said the right could not successfully create an opposition to the left's threat narrative because threat to women by men right here will always trump threat to women by men over there. I was wrong.
We are actually told that a white woman can't be raped because she is the oppressor, and oppressors can't be raped.
But I think I was also right, because what the right has done is to create their own narrative of women being threatened by the ogres right here, which apparently also includes white men, which is not a surprise because it always did. 30% of lynching victims were white men, after all. So now we have two threat narratives based around white women. The way the left builds its threat narrative is by appropriating minority issues as women's issues. The way the right builds its threat narrative is showing minorities as threats to women. Women always have it worse, and we have to save them. So the left will take away white men's rights, and the right will take away minority men's rights. Hell, they'll take away white men's rights too, because the right is happy to blame white women's trouble on white men's failures, rather than her own choices. And the left is already starting to throw minority men under the bus. The only real argument between left and right is which group of men should be thrown into the meat grinder first. Should the brown men go first, and then the white men? Or should the white men go first, and then the brown men? Neither side is asking themselves, do we need to put men in a meat grinder? And somehow, as we gut our own moral, legal, and ethical traditions, we'll manage to continue to exist as a world-spanning civilization that inspires billions with a vision of freedom and justice. You know, that's why they buy the petrodollar, right? At the end of the day, we have no group, alt-right, center-left, delete center, control left, equal north, whatever, that advocates for the moral, legal, and ethical traditions of our society. No group that advocates for our cooperative structures, those structures that not only brought together diverse groups into a shared goal, but also ended social ills that had plagued the human race since the dawn of history, like slavery. Well, there's us, I suppose. The cancer that ate Kilroy is the same cancer that will eat our society. And class warfare between men and women, with men winning, is the brick wall built between us and understanding the cure to that cancer. There's a reason why all of this is coming to a head now, and that's what I'm going to cover in my Deprogramming Women series. So stay tuned to this channel. Same Badger station, same Badger channel. Now here's where I ask you to consider supporting us. When I first created Honey Badger Radio, the concept was women talking about men's rights. But it's more than that. Much more. It's women taking responsibility for the powers of belonging they possess and speaking out against women using them to destroy. At the end of the day, it's bigger than men's rights. The value and liberty we afford individual men underpins the cooperative structures of our society, cooperative structures we all rely on. And women can use their power, responsibly to maintain that liberty and value, or irresponsibly by setting groups of men against one another in games of let's you and him fight. It's our choice. And if you want to support us, bringing attention to this choice and the importance of holding women to account and making them responsible for society, men, and our future, and their actions, www.feedthebadger.com. Thank you. And once again, if you want to tell me why I should suck a big one and you don't want to support us, topic@badgerpod.com.